Hello and welcome to the Expo Factor, the show that gets into what actually makes trade shows work. I'm your host, Aliya, founder and managing director of Expo Stars Interactive. In every episode, I sit down with experts in sales, events, communication, human behavior, to pull apart the strategies that turn into a booth into a business opportunity. So if you exhibit, manage a team that does, or just want to get out more of the events that you actually invest in, then you're in the right place. Today's guest is Aliya Rajah, a confidence coach, speaker, and NLP practitioner who helps professionals communicate with confidence and perform their best in high-pressure situations. We're going to be talking about confidence on the show floor, how to become the best version of yourself at exhibitions, how to approach visitors with confidence, handle rejection, and build genuine connections. I think this episode is going to resonate with anyone who stood on a booth and never wondered, how do you actually approach that person and start that conversation or bounce back after rejection? Okay, exhibition floors are brutal places sometimes. You say hello to thousands and thousands of people, but some people, they just ignore you and they don't want to talk to you. So let's have a chat with Aliya. Aliya, welcome to the show.
Hi, Lee. Thank you for the introduction. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this conversation has been a long time in the making. I remember meeting just after the pandemic finished.
Yeah.
We started talking about confidence and things like that. So tell us a bit more about yourself, how you got started with this kind of work, and why do you think confidence is important in this day and age?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I'm an executive presence and public speaking coach. I've been running my consultancy now for 9 years. So I actually have a science and health background, started my career in public health in London, and then decided to completely pivot, start my own, go into coaching and training. Moved out to the UAE where I was running my business there, and now I'm back between the UK and UAE. And my niche for the last 9 years has been confidence. That's really what I've been specializing in for these years, and really it's evolved into communication, public speaking, because at the end of the day, I think, I've been on my own journey with confidence as well. I know people see me as someone who's very confident with speaking. I do a lot of speaking training, standing in front of audiences, networking, but actually my journey didn't start like this. I wasn't someone who would ever get on video. I wasn't someone who liked to network. I was terrified of public speaking. And from working on building my own confidence in all these different areas over the years, I've seen the impact that it's made personally and professionally. And I was just like, wow, I need to, help people to do this, because it really is the biggest game changer. Not only does it really help you to thrive professionally, but also it really changes just how you move about in the world. So, how you see yourself, how you carry yourself, how you interact with people. So it's something I'm very passionate about.
Oh, fantastic. What was the biggest, what made you decide that you want to do something about it? Because a lot of people know that they're not confident, but they never do anything about it. So what was the pivot moment that made you go, hang on, I need to really get confident?
Well, I said a couple of things. First of all, I actually got thrown into lots of things when I was working at Public Health England. So I never wanted to be a speaker. I never wanted to network. I never wanted to do these things. But, my work pushed me to do all these things. So my manager, for example, was like, right, you're going to create a forum and you're going to chair it. And I was like, what? Please no, someone else can do it. Or you've got to speak at a national conference, in front of 200 people, go. And so, it's not like and I was really, I'm very ambitious, and I wanted to work my way up, and I wanted to make a good impression. And I realized that in order to do that, you need to say yes. You need to say yes to opportunities. And in honesty, I spoke, and I remember one particular talk that I gave, and it was awful. I was shaking. I talk about this. I was really nervous. I had my head down. My eyes were down. But the kind of, story I told myself after was, okay, I survived. I didn't die. I made it. And so from having to then do more and more speaking opportunities, it was something that I was like, I want to be better at this. I want to learn how to be more confident. I want to be better. And I actually remember just getting really into personal development. So I started reading a lot of books as well, and then understanding the power of mindset and how your mindset changes everything. And I started to adopt those principles, and I realized it was a big game changer. So it was a mix of both the mindset plus, the action, being thrown out of my comfort zone, that, made me start on this journey.
Oh, fantastic. Why do you think a lot of people are not feeling confident these days? Because I've seen it. I mean, around Manchester, where we're based, I see it all the time. Where people have their head down, or they, to avoid conversations, they put their headphones in. Why do you think that is? Is it society these days, we're becoming much more insular, or why do you think younger people are not feeling so confident?
It's a mix of things, for sure. I mean, we definitely have a head down culture for sure. And, of course, we're like stuck to our phones now. We're having it more of an individualistic society where we're much more, with ourselves. We're going out less. We're more at home. But, I think it, lack of confidence, there's a lot of factors. It can be in your environment, it's your upbringing, it's rejections. We're living in a time now where things just are more difficult when it comes to the working world and in our careers, and facing rejections and uncertainty in the workplace, and that can have a big knock on our confidence. I think in terms of, we have a lot more access to what other people are doing now as well through social media, and I think we're constantly seeing what other people are doing, and we just feel like everyone is ahead of us as well, where we just constantly feel like we're not enough, we're falling behind, and then that can have a big impact on us. So we don't look good enough, we should be ahead by now, we're on this timeline that we think we're not on par with. So there's a number of real factors, as well. And I think also, I think, in all honesty, I think sometimes it's not celebrated enough to actually take up space, and actually, own who you are and own your accomplishments. I think there is still some judgment towards that, of like, I think the culture here very much in the UK is, or even like you said, Manchester, of like being humble is more, appreciated. Not that you can't be confident and humble, you absolutely can, but, by being more confident and visible, I think people hold back because of they fear that they're going to be seen as arrogant. So there's also that barrier where people think, if I'm, more confident, if I speak up, people, won't like me. I'm more likable if I'm less confident.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I mean, there's a lot of anxiety about, given the political situation, and given, the differences that we have. So there's a lot that actually goes on there. Now, let's talk about, the cost of not being confident. Okay, especially, I mean, how does this play out in the day-to-day culture? I know we're going to talk about the exhibition floor, but let's talk about the day-to-day business, for example. I mean, how does lack of confidence play out in the day-to-day business world? I mean, obviously we work in Manchester, in office environments, in factories, at schools. How does the lack of confidence actually, play out as far as people's careers are concerned?
So in so many ways. So first of all, if you're not confident, you don't believe in yourself, you have self-doubt and negative thinking, you won't even put yourself forward for the opportunity. So you're talking about being in business, but I think to get there in the first place and take those steps requires a certain amount of confidence in just doing the thing, taking the action. So for one, you won't even go for the opportunity. The second thing is, there's a lot of analysis paralysis. So it's like, I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't do that. What will people think of me? This big fear of judgment, for not doing anything. And, one of the biggest reasons why people come to me is because they say that I have, I'm very knowledgeable, I'm very technical, I know my stuff, I'm really good at what I do, but I'm not speaking up enough. I'm not having the visibility. And what's actually happening is other people who are just more outspoken, they're a bit more confident, a bit more bold, they're then going ahead and they're speaking up instead. They're getting the promotions, they're having more opportunities. So, it's a good question to ask yourself. It's great that you're asking this. Okay, if I keep doing this, what will I miss out on in the future?
Yeah.
And, I think it's also just heavy as well. I think if you're constantly very negative and you're holding yourself back, you feel very stuck, you feel very heavy, you feel very negative.
Yeah.
And so there isn't that motion. Whereas I'm also a big believer in doors as well. So, people will often say, oh, I said no to this speaking opportunity. And I think when you say no to a speaking opportunity, it's not just a speaking opportunity. there are lots of doors behind that one opportunity.
Yeah.
So someone might have seen you and been like, oh, great, I really liked you. Can you come speak at this event? Or, hey, you can get a client from that speaking opportunity. That happens. You generate leads, you generate sales. So you're not only saying no to that one thing, you're actually saying no to all the opportunities that would follow on from it. So my answer is a lot.
Yeah, the impact is massive, isn't it? So let's move on to the world of trade shows. Now, this is a place where there's no hiding place. So you actually, when you stood on a booth, I know before the episode started, we were talking about things like retail environments and things like this. But when you're actually at a trade show booth, you're actually confronted with thousands of people that you're going to have to talk to get the sales leads or generate brand awareness for your company. So there's no really hiding place. So what kind of mistakes do you think, what kind of things should people be looking at to actually prepare? Okay, I mean, I always believe that preparation is always key, but I mean, what kind of things should people be looking at before they actually attend an event, whether it's networking, whether it's the exhibition floor, or even going to work to do sales, door to door, or whatever it is? What kind of thing can they do to be prepared and be confident on the show floor?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'd say, if you are nervous, first of all, just accept that it's completely okay to be nervous as well. It's not a bad thing. It's not like I should be doing this, or it's okay. I think first of all, just embrace the nerves, and it's really just about knowing how to manage and work with the nerves. That's really it. So, I would say, it is one of the Stephen Covey's 7 habits is start with the end in mind. Think about the desired outcome. What would be really good for this exhibition, this show? What would I like to walk away with? And already have it there, because if you're not sure of what that is, you don't know what you want. How do you know how you're going to show up? So really, you want to what would be an ideal outcome for me in this, and then you work backwards. Okay, so in order for that to happen, in order for me to make this impression, have that many conversations, feel like this on the day, what do I need to do? And then work backwards. So that's one thing. The second thing is, honestly, just get yourself in a good state beforehand. I know it sounds obvious, but I'm sure if I were to ask most people, how do you start your day? How do you go into these events? It's probably just wake up in the morning, go, feel really nervous, feel really awkward, overwhelmed, go in there and just, let the nerves take over on the day. But actually, imagine it going really well, visualize it going really well. In the same way that you're imagining it all going wrong, why don't you imagine it going really well and see how you walk in differently?
Yeah. So it's that positive self-talk. It's understanding your on-job role, okay, and what the expectations are of you from your manager or from your senior leadership team. Then really understanding, who you're going to be talking to as well, in terms of doing your research on what kind of visitors are there going to be, okay, and looking at, if you're doing international events, for example, then really understanding what kind of culture there is as well. So I know you've been out to Dubai, you've lived there for a long time. So let's talk about the intercultural aspect of communication and confidence as well. So is there obviously you've lived in both UAE and the UK as well. So talk to me about the different types of confidence there is in UAE compared to here in the UK.
So I would say a lot of the sort of challenges are very similar in terms of, mindset. You get imposter syndrome, a lot of, overthinking, comparison to other people. A lot of the themes are very similar, I would say for sure. I think one of the big difference is, as you mentioned, the multiculturalism. So I think because there are so many different nationalities in the UAE, there are lots of different languages that are spoken, different cultures, different ways in which people communicate. So that can cause people to sort of think twice or have a bit of a barrier. Or, a lot of people, they come to me and they say, I think in one language and I speak in another language. And so, they're speaking, they're giving a presentation, they're asked a question, there's that bit of a delay. And actually, I mean, it's way worse for them in their head than it actually is. But, that becomes a much bigger thing where they're like, I think in one language, I've got to process it, got to, speak in English. So, and then things around like accents and communication, that's also another sort of area as well. But again, people often feel that it's much stronger and visible and noticeable than it is. At the end of the day, it is a melting pot of different cultures. So it's, we are from lots of different places. It's completely okay. And it's welcomed, it's embraced. So I think there's more of that there, I would say, than I've seen in the UK. But of course, the UK is very diverse as well. But over there, I've seen it. These are the things that people come and talk about much more.
Oh, absolutely. And that reflects really on the exhibition floor, doesn't it? Because especially if you're going to an international show like Mobile World Congress, for example, there's people from over 100 countries there. So you need to be able to start conversations with almost, anyone from any culture as well. So that's a great point. So let's talk. We've now arrived at the event. Okay, we've done the preparation. Okay, tell me about how confidence affects people's first impressions of you. Okay, so if you're not confident, how is that going to show up? And if you are confident, what difference does that make in people trying to approach you or people starting those conversations?
Yeah, well, the reality is, well, we all have first impressions, and the reality is people do make a judgment within the first few seconds. Yes, that can
Yeah,
be changed, but on the
absolutely, yeah.
whole, the
Yeah,
initial impression does kind of make has an impact on, the rest of the impression that people, have of you after that. And so, um, as I say, you only have a chance to have one first impression, but things like, your body language, if you're very closed off or you're actually communicating with people non-verbally before you say anything,
absolutely,
that's
yeah.
really where the communication starts. So,
Yeah,
if you're not looking at people, your head is down, your arms are crossed, you're basically saying to people, don't approach me, don't speak to me. Whereas if you have open body language, you make eye contact, even smile. I mean, the conversation actually starts with a smile, doesn't it? And an eye contact.
yeah, absolutely.
And then, you start it there, or you're open, you're saying, I'm open to speaking to. So that's, and again, that comes from you and your mindset, and saying, this is me, this is, I feel confident to speak to people. If you, in your mind, and this is why it's important to be aware of what's going on in your mind, because if in your mind you're saying, I hate this, I don't want to be here, you get me away, I hate people, then you're really going to just do everything, with your body to kind of, not have to have those conversations. Whereas if you're telling your mind, then your body starts to respond accordingly.
Yeah, yeah. From my own experience, I think what I've seen is people actually run away, try their best to run away from the booth and actually try and avoid all of that.
Yeah.
I've seen plenty of that. Um,
Yeah.
what are one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is confidence natural, or is it something that you're born with? Because you see, I walk into networking rooms sometimes, and you see these people walk in, and they've got this presence, and everybody is drawn to them. And I've always thought, sometimes that people are actually naturally born that way, and some of us aren't. But is that true?
Well, this is the funny thing about confidence, is that confidence, you can be very confident in certain areas of your life and not so confident in other areas.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
for example, when it comes to your role, you can be very confident in how technical you are, in your expertise, what you specialize in. But then when it comes to going into, a room, a networking event, and speaking to people, you're not so confident there. So it isn't, necessarily like your confidence is just, it just spans across all different areas. You can be very confident in different areas. And also your confidence isn't linear. So actually your confidence can very much go up and down according to what
Yeah.
you're going through in life. You've just gone through, had a promotion, and now you feel out of your depth, and your confidence is dipped, or you've had a rejection, your confidence is dipped, something personal's going on. So in that aspect, it can go up and down. But really, I would say, not necessarily. What I think, if confidence was something you either have or you don't, then it wouldn't be something I would teach. I believe it absolutely is a skill. And I think it's almost like a hat as well. It's
Yeah.
just learning. It's like any other skill. It's something you learn to do. And so when it comes to, going to an event, going to a presentation, it's just, it's something I say, like, put on a hat. A lot of people come to me, they're more introverted. And I say, it's okay. It's okay to be more reserved. It's okay to be introverted. But if you've got to go to an event and it's important for your career, it's important for you to have outcomes, you just need to put on the hat do the thing while you're there, and then, hey, take off the hat and go back to being, reserved and introverted. It's okay. It's not like you have to change your personality. It's not like you have to be someone different. So it absolutely is something you can do. It's a skill, and like, your any job you do requires you to adopt certain skills, and so this is just another skill. And I think for me personally, the reason why I've learned to gain those skills is because I've seen in business just how beneficial it is to go to events, to speak to people, to build relationships, right? And I think when you're very clear on the outcomes and the benefits of it, then you're like, okay, how can I sharpen this skill?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I think that wearing different hats, personally for me, was a game changer, because I used to be an introvert, but I'm also an extrovert as well at the same time. So we call ourselves ambiverts. Okay.
I'm one of those too.
If I have to go to a networking event, I'm not a natural networker, but what I can do is get into character. And I've always thought, like, what kind of character do I need to be to get through this? Okay. Yeah. And I kind of, go in the bathroom and change my face and get into character. And there you go. So next time you meet me at an event, everyone out there, you'll know that it's Lee from another multiverse. So moving on to your on the show floor, you're talking to people, or you're trying to talk to people, and people don't want to talk to you. Is rejection personal? Is rejection personal, or should you feel it as it's personal to you? So tell us a bit more about why people feel rejected, especially when it's an event, business event, and maybe not be something that people are interested in, but we still take it personally.
Yeah. Well, it's tough, isn't it? I don't think anyone likes to feel the sense of rejection. And, I think from an even evolutionary point of view, it's like we all in us want to have this sense of belonging. And so if we feel a sense of rejection, it's like we've been pushed out. We've been pushed out, from the crowd, from the herd. And, it's like a survival instinct to need to feel like a sense of belonging. So it can be very easy to, take it personally and think it's me and associate it with your self-worth. And I think that's where, the detachment needs to happen. Is it's not about you as a person. And, at the end of the day, it's important to kind of think about what's going through the person's, mind as well. So people are on exhibition, they're talking to lots of people, they're getting approached by so many people each day. Yeah. It's not practical really for them to stop at everyone. At the end of the day, this is how, and I think it's important to be logical about it and say, okay, well, logically, people are here. If something catches their eye, they're willing to have a conversation. If not, it just isn't for them, and something else is, something else is more important to them. So I think it's two things. That's on one hand, is about seeing it that way. On the other hand, I think it is important also to self-reflect, and say, okay, also just have that self-awareness, am I, why is it, maybe I can improve my conversation. Maybe I can, try a different technique, or what is it I'm doing? Just kind of reflect on the conversations as well. Can I try a different approach? Always having that flexibility and adaptability of like, maybe I can try something else, see if this works, see if that doesn't work. Not just when I'm trying to say hi and then no one's listening to me, and go into my cave because I'm getting rejected.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. One of the tips that works for me, especially when I was selling door to door, I actually used to go out and give myself a target of a number of no's. Okay, so I think that having that reverse psychology of saying, okay, instead of looking for 20 yeses, I'm going to look for 50 no's. Okay, and that way, if you're on no number, 35, you're actually feeling successful.
That's a very good way.
15 not closer to your goal, but the positive aspect of that is that you're not feeling that negative rejection vibe, because you've got a target and you're actually just going and you're getting it out of your system as well. There's nothing psychological about it. It's just a numbers game, and I think using that reverse psychology can work really, really well as well. So, so how do you actually go about? Obviously, you're an NLP practitioner. how do you go about reframing situations? So, for example, you've had a really bad conversation, for example, with someone, and they've brought your energy down. How do you go about actually reframing it so that you come back to being positive and then on to the next conversation?
Yeah, I think it's really important. This is NLP as well, to really be able to manage your state
Yeah,
and be aware of what you're feeling, what energy you're giving off. And so if, a certain conversation has thrown you off and, you're not feeling so good after that, you're feeling a bit deflated, maybe even demotivated, it's okay. That's fine to feel that. What isn't so positive is for you then to carry that same energy then into, the next conversation. And, you might not be very mindful, your probably energy is low, like you said, you're not feeling, like you want to take the conversation forward. So really just want to rebalance yourself. I think you always want to kind of think about, how can I just rebalance myself after that? It's kind of like switching off the tab, grounding yourself, and then onto the new one. And I think that's when you can just kind of collect yourself. I think breathing is one of the best things you can do, really. Just take some breaths, listen to your heart rate, focus on your breath just to clear your mind. And, just again, it's that positive self-talk. I think it's asking yourself, okay, if my friend was in this situation who I really cared about, what would I say to them right now? And say that same thing to yourself. So, hey, it's okay, that was one conversation, the next one will be better. It's like talking to yourself in that way and then moving on to the next conversation.
all right. So tell us a bit more about the NLP then. I mean, what kind of tools are really useful for people who are actually working on the show floor to use? Talk to us about some techniques.
So really, powerful techniques are around sort of knowing how to build rapport with someone as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's essentially what you want to be doing when you are meeting people. And you're kind of on a subconscious level building that trust with someone, you're building that connection.
Yeah.
So you're kind of, meeting people where they are. So, if and showing that you're present with them. So if someone is talking to you, really be listening and be actively listening as well. That could be like nodding your head. That could be, just kind of just being engaged with what they're saying. I would say something else you can do is match. I know this could be uncomfortable for some people, but also just matching the energy of who you're speaking to as well. If someone is just like very friendly, it's not like you need to be fake and just really start being really extroverted, but just if you're quite reserved, just dialing it up a little bit and also having a bit more of a smile if they're quite smiley, just that little bit of matching their energy. If someone is very calm, very slow, you're just kind of, slowing down your tone. It's little small things like that, really, where you're just building rapport. And actually, it's like an initial thing. It's not like it just continues, but actually, it's for that initial part of the conversation where you build that rapport. And then after then, you can kind of go back to your sort of, natural state. It's just an initial rapport building exercise that is quite effective.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously, are there any techniques now where you can actually try to figure out what kind of person that you've got in front of you? And I know in NLP you have auditory, you have visual, and you have kinesthetic kind of people. Are there any sort of tips and tricks as to what people can use to feel out, whether they're auditory people or whether they are visually orientated?
So, I mean, I guess it, depends on, well, it is. I mean, you could ask certain questions and, how people will describe certain events or experiences gives it a good indication of, so if you ask them about the event, you ask them what they're working on, you ask them what they're doing. And it's more like if they're saying things like, I think, or I feel, or,
Yeah.
what I'm seeing, if you ask them even to kind of describe the event, for example, I think just as an initial conversation starter, you want to think quite big picture and not overthink it too much. So, how are you finding the event today? Have you been to an event like this before? Just really starting quite high level and listening, really, really listening to what they're saying and then using certain words back to that person. You'll get an idea of how they kind of are processing, information and the events.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think for me as well is repeating back some of the language that they're actually using as well, because that goes a long way to show that you're listening also, but also to get on their level as well. So they're really kind of using the same kind of terminology that they're using. Really helps to resonate with that person in front of you as well. So yeah. So we've had the conversation, and we're feeling really good, and hopefully we're not feeling rejected with a person saying no, we're not interested. Okay. So what, in terms of that reflection after, how do you actually review, um, your performance in terms of your confidence levels? Okay, what are the types of questions you need to ask at the end of the day to say, okay, how good was I? How confident was I? And what do I need to do better? So what techniques would you actually use there?
Yeah, well, I think, you can bring it back to what the outcomes were that you set
Yeah,
for the day. So, and that could be a good review as well. So, for example, how many conversations did you want to have? What kind of conversations, what leads, the kind of targets that you set for yourself. That's really good as well, because just to review that, you're then feeling accomplished.
yeah,
Um, I'd say another thing about confidence is, did you do something that scared you a little bit? Was there something that you were hesitating on, then you actually did it? Maybe you were like, oh, I don't want to talk to that person, but then you went and had that conversation. Maybe you approach someone that you would have before. So that's another way, to see it as well.
yeah,
Did you try something new? So I think just asking these and really reflecting on it. How did people respond to you? But I think overall, how did you feel and how did you manage the nerves? That's another good one as well
all right.
to reflect on.
Great. And obviously, again, exhibitions is a team thing, it's a team effort. Okay.
Yeah.
What role do team managers have in that process of making sure that the team is uplifted and confident and really ready to engage with people? So, do they have a vital role, or would you say it's much more of a personal thing to to be confident on the show floor or in the room?
Yeah, I think it definitely is, and there's a lot that managers can do as well. I think, you as a manager just to kind of know who it is that's in your team, and
Yeah,
see them as individuals, and then try to understand. Okay, this person, if you see that this person on your team doesn't feel so confident, just have a conversation.
yeah,
Okay, is there anything that you're worried about? Let's have an open conversation. Is there anything about today that you're a bit hesitant about, and just kind of almost like coach them through it as
yeah,
well. And I think allowing the space, as we spoke about earlier, to say, okay, it is a bit scary, it is a bit daunting, but you've got this. Even small words. I remember this is what I experienced when I was in my public health career. My manager was so incredible, and she did all of this. I was really didn't feel confident with a lot of things, and she was like, "You can do this. You absolutely have got this." Honestly, something as small as that to say, "Oh, okay, maybe I can do it," is really,
yeah.
really uplifting. And if they do feel deflated, for you to acknowledge that and say, it's okay, just do it again. I think these small things can make a really big difference to the team.
Great stuff. So finally, we could actually talk all day about this, but we only have limited time. So I'm going to do some quick fire questions to you in terms of giving people tips on, how to improve their confidence. So in terms of one positive habit that you can recommend to every, booth staffer out there that they need to develop, if you could pick one thing, what would it be?
Just one thing.
One
Okay.
thing.
Honestly, I would say just start the day off well. I know that sounds, because how you start the day is how the rest of the day goes. So if you
Yeah.
can start the day ideally without looking at your phone and not scrolling through your phone first thing in the morning, because you have emails, phones, social media, messages, your mind is frazzled. If your mind is frazzled, you won't feel present, you won't feel grounded, and that will impact your confidence. So really just try to start off the day in the most calm way, because that will then impact the rest of the day. That's a huge something I'm just so, just passionate about and I'm adamant about.
Absolutely. And this message also goes out to those people who like to party late in the evening at all the networking parties as well. So make sure that you turn up, that you don't party too hard the night before. And, you come in absolutely ready and full of positive energy the next day. Aliya, it was a pleasure to speak with you. Thanks so much for your advice and, tips on how to be more confident on the booth. Where can we find you? Where can our listeners and viewers find you?
Yeah, so I'm on socials. We can connect on LinkedIn. My name, Aliya Rajah. You can find me on my website as well, aliyarajah.com. And then similar with my Instagram as well. It's Aliya, Aliya.Rajah and then underscore. Yeah, it's all on my website as well, my socials.
Great stuff. Thank you again. And thanks everyone for tuning in today. And watch out for the next episode, the next couple of weeks, where we're all going to be talking about measurement. So join us for that. And we'll leave you with, with the thought that, rejection isn't personal and confidence can be built as well. So until the next time, we'll see you on the show floor somewhere around the globe.